ATO explains what CbC Local File electronic lodgement means to you. I'm Tony and I'll be your moderator today. Your presenters from the ATO are Ross Mikulinski and Heiko Siemers. Following their presentation, Jim Edwards and Daniel Levin from Walters Kluwer will be facilitating a Q&A session. In today's webinar, the ATO will be discussing digital by default, setting the scene for electronic-based lodgement, understanding the electronic form, the XML schema, understanding the ATO CbC reporting electronic lodgement requirements, and electronic lodgement and administrative solution. You can submit questions via the questions tab at any time throughout the webinar. I think we're ready to begin, so I'll hand over to Ross.
Thanks, Tony, and welcome everyone. So, as Tony mentioned, I'm here to discuss country-by-country reporting in electronic lodgement. So, if we can get straight into it, I'll move to slide 3. So, just to give a brief overview in terms of our approved forms and essentially the statements that are required under CbC reporting. As we all know, there's 3 statements. There's the CbC report, the master file, and the local file. Within the local file, how we've designed it is we've got 3 tiers of local file components. So we have the short form local file, which if you meet certain criteria, you may only be required to lodge the short form. We have the Part A, which essentially is quantitative details on your international related party dealings and transactions. And then Part B, which is essentially information about your agreements, international related party agreements and the agreements themselves, plus financial accounts. So, as part of those 3 statements, what we've done is we've developed some XML schemas, and I'll explain what that is. In terms of the CbC report, that's defined by the OECD, and we've adopted that as our schema for domestic lodgement. Now that schema is available through our website to the link to the OECD website or directly to the OECD. And they also have a user guide that allows you to understand the informational requirements of that particular schema. In terms of what the ATO has developed, we've developed what we're calling the combined master file / local file XML schema. So just a bit of background. We did have a consultation, I believe it was early last year, around the high-level design of the local file requirements, where we engaged with taxpayers, industry, corporations and industry associations to determine the best way forward in terms of the design of the local file. And based on that consultation, we developed what we call the local file high-level design, which is available on our website. As you know, it takes some information from some information requirements from the OECD defined local file, and then alters it for Australian local conditions based on already established TP documentation rules and the specific risks that the Australian economy focuses on. So the local file high-level design is available on our website. For the master file, we are adopting, as we've noted before, Annex 1 of the OECD guidance, and that is required to be submitted as an attachment, and I'll get into what that means as an attachment later, as part of the combined local file, master file XML schema. In terms of the master file, the combined schema allows a taxpayer to apply for an administrative concession in relation to the filing of the master file for the first reporting period, and we have guidance on that in our Q&As that go through the requirements of applying for this concession. Also, the schema allows you to provide details on behalf of who the master file is being lodged. So if there are other entities in your Australian accounting group that also under our CbC reporting legislation have a lodgement obligation to lodge the master file, one entity can lodge on their behalf, and the information in respect of the other entities who that taxpayer is lodging on can be provided as part of that XML schema. So the sort of other features of this combined schema includes, or the combined form, include providing information in relation to the lodgement of the CbC reports, including where it's being lodged by a foreign entity in the global group, or information relating to the lodgement by an entity in your Australian accounting group that isn't yourself. Other features that are part of the combined schema is that you can lodge the separate components of either the local file, which is local file part A, which you may want to do as part of the administrative solution, part B, and the short form separately to each other. And you can also lodge the master file in a separate submission to the other files. Now, in terms of attachments need to be that they are encoded as part of the XML file, and I'll briefly touch on it now and then return back to it. They're not. I want to make it clear because there has been some confusion. They're not attachments that can be lodged separately without being incorporated into that XML file. On our developer's website, we have information about how that file or those files need to be encoded as part of that XML file to enable them to be submitted as part of your lodgement. And just to reiterate, it's not something that you can just lodge an attachment just naked, essentially as a PDF or a docx file. It must be within the approved form, which in this case will be the local file, master file, combined XML schema. So moving on to the next slide, let's circle back and understand what exactly is the XML schema. So an XML schema, it defines the form itself. It's essentially a list of questions or elements that a resulting XML file will need to have. So you can think of the XML schema as your form, as a file that defines the electronic form. Within that schema, all the questions that relate to your local file lodgement, your master file lodgement, and the actual quantitative and qualitative information are laid out. The XML schema reflects what we've provided in the message structure table, which is essentially a slightly more user-friendly way of understanding what the requirements of the XML schema are. We also have, in addition to the XML schema, validation rules, which we've recently published on our software developers/SBR website, that form an overlay over that XML schema or form, which require when generating an XML file, the XML file must not only conform to the XML schema, but also to the validation rules that are published on our website. So the XML file is essentially what is generated by your business management software, where the XML schema is used to generate that file. So what is required in terms of electronic lodgement is using that XML schema, using or adapting or developing business management software that can consume or that can use that XML schema and validation rules and generate a valid XML file for lodgement with the ATO. And as I said before, within that XML file, the relevant attachments are contained therein. So essentially, just to be clear, the XML file is your answers to the questions on the form, which is represented by the XML schema, which in itself is used by your business management software to create a valid submission to the ATO. So what happens when you actually submit an XML file to the ATO? First of all, what happens is that we register you as a significant global entity. We also create all your lodgement obligations that relate to you being a significant global entity, so all the components of the local file, the CbC report, and the master file. As part of your answers to the local file master file XML schema, where required, we changed the status of certain lodgements to say that those aren't required, for example, where you are only required to lodge a short form or where you have lodged a master file on behalf of others. We also automatically defer the lodgement due date for CbC reports where they are expected to be exchanged via another tax jurisdiction. So, going on to lodgement, how do you lodge a valid XML file with the ATO? So, I want to point out that our lodgement mechanisms that we're using build on already existing ATO infrastructure. We're using the portal, so the business and tax agent portal, to lodge these files. As part of lodging these files, they're lodged through the file transfer facility, which is a function that's available in the business and tax agent portal. You can also choose to lodge via standard business reporting, SBR, if you have software that's SBR enabled. So when you do lodge, what happens is you get a validation report that's provided to you at the time of the submission, and data quality checks are run on your submission. And if we do find errors, or something that's outstanding, a member of the ATO may contact you as a reporting entity to clear up any errors that are made. You can also submit amendments to original files, and you can do that by just sending the changed content via the portals or via SBR. So lodgements are due with no later than 12 months after the end of the relevant reporting period, unless, of course, an extension or exemption applies. And lodgement functionality will be enabled, or is expected to be enabled, from 1st of July 2017. So, getting to the last part of the presentation, looking at the administrative solution and how that might impact you. So during consultation with industry in relation to the development of the local file, we heard that there were concerns around duplication of information, around what is required to be reported in Part A of the local file, and also Parts 2, or Labels 2 to 17 of the IDS. So we took on board that feedback and developed the administrative solution that minimizes duplication to taxpayers. So what is it? So the administrative solution allows you to lodge your local file Part A at the same time as your tax return without requiring you to complete Labels 2 to 17 of the IDS. Now, in order to take up that solution, while we say the submission must be at the same time, due to technical limitations, the submission isn't together. The ITR/IDS cannot be submitted together with the local file Part A. What we mean by at the same time is that those forms must be submitted on the same day. If you do choose to take up the administrative solution, it still requires you to lodge an IDS where relevant. So if you have to report interests in foreign entities, if there are thin cap related values you need to report, you still have to lodge an IDS in respect of those. Also, you have to let us know via the IDS at new labels that we're putting in for 2017, labels 1A and 1B, that you will be undertaking to use the administrative solution as part of your lodgement for this reporting period. The other limitation is that you must use 2017 stationery in order to be able to take up the administrative solution. Now, I do want to clear up some confusion. Previous versions of our high-level design did have, as part of it, an option that we may provide the ability to to provide a breakdown of your internally recorded dealings as part of the local file. I just want to clear up some confusion. We've updated that page and we've removed that particular aspect. Now, the reason why is that was never intended to negate a taxpayer reporting those values at question 18 anyway. The administrative solution was never intended to go so far as question 18. Only questions 2 to 17 are included. So we've removed that option on the basis that a voluntary breakdown of internally recorded branch dealings is unlikely to be provided by taxpayers where there is still a requirement to fill out question 18 of the IDS. So just to confirm, question 18 of the IDS, if you're required to fill that in, then that must be filled in. That's not part of the admin solution. In terms of what's coming next and further information and further guidance, so this is on slide 10. So we have a number of items of guidance under development. So the first one is the local file master file detailed design. That will be available on our website shortly, probably just before Easter or just after Easter. So it takes a look at the XML schema in depth and provides guidance on how attachments need to be provided and also all the elements, i.e. all the questions that are in that schema. We also have local file part A instructions, and that's essentially equivalent to IDS instructions but just for the local file part A, and that is likely to be available in May. Finally, we have what we're calling a practical compliance guideline, and that's a comprehensive document outlining our administration of CbC reporting and what you need to do from a practical perspective to comply, and that will integrate and synthesize our previously released guidance in relation to exemptions and the frequently asked questions, and that's also likely to be available in May. I can also point out that we have our website, which is ato.gov.au/CbC. You'll find all the latest information there in terms of our implementation of country-by-country reporting. We also have an SGE page, significant global entity page, which is ato.gov.au/SGE, and that's for the other measures to which the SGE definition applies. That's a central place where you can find links to the other relevant measures for SGEs. We also have two mailboxes, the CbC reporting mailbox, which is cbcreporting@ato.gov.au. So any questions that you might have, please send them through to CbC reporting. Also for exemption requests, replacement reporting period requests, and extension of time requests, that is the place to send those requests. If there's general questions around the SGE concept or any of the other measures to which the SGE concept relates, then the address for that is sge@ato.gov.au. Otherwise, we can open it up for questions.
Great. So Ross, my first question is,
yes.
You mentioned the admin solution.
Yes.
So for an early balancer, 31 December year end,
yes.
They want to lodge their tax return early,
yes.
Before July. They're going to have to wait until July for the systems to be up and running to be able to get that admin solution?
Yes, so they will have to wait. So we require that the local file part A and the income tax return be lodged together and using 2017 stationery. So they really can't lodge their income tax return too early or before July 1 because 2017 stationery won't be available, and that includes an update to the IDS itself to enable it. So yes, they will have to wait till 1st of July.
Another question that Daniel and I have received from a number of corporations is in relation to the foreign currency translation or FX gains or losses on individual transactions. And do you want to just share your thoughts on the guidance that's coming in that area?
Yes. So I guess first of all, we have received a few questions and comments on that aspect as well. The first thing I would say is I would encourage those taxpayers that do have questions or issues around the attribution of foreign exchange gains or losses to particular transactions as required in local file part A to email CbC reporting and to provide us, the scenarios or the transaction categories that prove to be a difficult issue or where accounting systems aren't designed to meet that sort of reporting requirement. And that will really help us to develop further guidance around where we can, minimize the compliance costs and recognize the system issues around that. So we will have guidance on that particular topic as part of the local file Part A instructions, but before then we do encourage any taxpayers to send us any feedback or questions on that to CbC reporting.
Yep. Oh, thanks, Ross. And another common question that's been asked by a lot of taxpayers has been, how do I generate this XML file? And they've been trying to work with their internal IT departments or with anyone who's familiar with technology to try and help produce that XML file. But it's, I don't think that many people have been successful in actually been able to produce the XML file yet with their Excel-based solution. So what we're finding is that a number of corporations have come to the conclusion that they need to use the system that they're already using, like our tax, our CCH integrator platform would be an example of one. But just curious on your the questions you've been receiving about the XML structure and your thoughts on what sort of skill levels required to actually produce that XML file.
Yeah. Look, it's definitely, the XML schema and the resulting XML file, it's not, I would say that it's not something that can be easily produced with existing business management software unless it's, using Microsoft products would be a difficult task at the best of times, given the complexity with first of all, the transactional data, and then also in terms of encoding attachments. It's not impossible, I would say, but it's not something that would be readily doable without specific expertise or technical assistance from others. Certainly, the information requirements as part of the local file master file are reasonably complex, and so definitely a software solution of some sort may be required to generate a valid XML file that first of all meets the XML schema requirements and also meets the validation rules that we've also published. I just want to quickly pass it over to Heiko if he has any comments on that aspect.
Yeah, thank you, Ross. No, I think you articulated that quite well, so unless there are any other questions in that topic, I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Heiko.
Yeah, there's a somewhat related question that's just come in from the audience, which is just what happens if you try to lodge the XML file by the due date, but have difficulties and can't get it through without errors in time?
Okay. Well, certainly, given that this is the first year that this measure has been implemented, and given that it's a reasonably complex measure using electronic lodgement as the only means for lodgement, we're certainly open to, first of all, extensions of time for lodgement, and that can be done through CbC reporting, as I've mentioned before, the mailbox. And we are, as the ATO, we are here to provide assistance, although limited. I mean, we're not software developers or providers, but we can certainly assist with trying to get your business ready to lodge. Certainly, we have our own software industry partnership office where software developers, whether they be internal to your organization or external software developers, work with us to update their software to make sure that it's compliant with our requirements. But we wouldn't be taking we would be taking a light touch approach in the first year, especially given the requirements of electronic lodgement.
Just one from one from the audience as well. They're asking whether you can lodge Part B with a tax return. So I assume that your systems that you're getting up and running in July, if someone decides to lodge Part A and Part B, they can lodge both.
Yes. So from 1st of July, which is the expected availability date for lodgement, you can lodge the CbC report and any part of the local file and or master file. So if you're ready to lodge Part B, then please do so.
What about how you register as an SGE? That's come in as well.
Okay, so from the 2017 income tax year, there will be a new indicator on the company tax return, trust and partnership and super fund tax return that will require you to self-assess as an SGE. But for the first year of report, so that applies for the 2016-2017 year. For this, for CbC, of course, the test is based on whether you're an SGE in the previous year. There is no requirement per se to register as an SGE. The simple act of lodging your any one of your CbC statements will register you as an SGE on our systems.
So a question has just come in relation to the submission via the business and tax portal.
Yes.
And the question is, will I be purely required to upload an XML file, or is there some form of input data into some sort of form?
No. So yeah, there is. So that would be what's. So if there was a retail service, that would be a form. No, there is no form per se that's on the portal. There is just the file transfer facility. So you log into the portals, you go to the file transfer facility, you click browse, you select the XML file, which has all the details around your lodgement. It will have your TFN, all the details of your local file, master file. Your attachments are also included within the XML file itself, encoded in a specific format, which I won't get into. And that file is what is uploaded, and that contains all the information.
What do you see the advantages of going by SBR versus the portals potentially in this instance?
Well, there's obviously SBR. It's a more seamless process in terms of lodgement.
Yeah.
You don't have that additional step of logging into the portals and going through, the file transfer facility. It's all handled within the software itself.
Yeah.
If you have multiple, I'm thinking of cases where you have lots of lodgements to make.
Yeah.
Especially for service firms, then maybe SBR is a better solution, because that would remove that requirement to manually log in to the tax agent portal and submit individually.
Yeah, and if you've got lots of agreements as well.
Yeah, lots of attachments. The files might be quite large and difficult
Yes.
to submit via a desktop.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So with SBR, it makes that process a bit more seamless.
Yeah, I think we've always used the portals as being people to systems sort of channels to get information through, whereas SBR is more of a system to system.
Yes, yes.
And
Essentially, yeah, I would agree with that analogy. It's essentially SBR is really computer to computer or system to system, while portals is manually going in and doing it yourself.
Just another question about support on the day of lodgement. So
yes.
The question is there a phone number that I can contact rather than an email on the day of deadline?
No, we're doing it currently via email, but certainly we can look into providing specific technical support. I mean, obviously our call centres will be operational, but I suggest that they will be sending those inquiries through to our team via the CbC reporting email.
Also, one has come through saying, will there be any further blanket extensions for 31 December year ends, given the portal is not expected to be up and running until at least 1 July?
Look, in terms of extensions, we have our conformance testing suites for software developers that are coming out 15th of June. We understand that may be a limited time frame for software developers to make sure that their software is certified with our systems and that they're ready to lodge valid XML files. So in that case, we are looking at potentially, in respect of the administrative solution only, we are currently considering potentially a blanket extension of time for lodgements to take into account that delayed availability of the testing suites, and part of that is also our testing environment, the external vendor testing environment. So I can't give you a definitive answer as yet. We're currently looking into how we can manage that process internally. But certainly we're working with software developers such as Walter Spluer to make sure that their systems are ready as soon as possible. And if there are delays, then we'll work with them and taxpayers to get that information out to you.
Another question is coming in just in relation to attachments.
Yes.
So any agreements that have already been shared with the ATO in the past through other discussions, is there a requirement to resubmit those as part of the CbC?
Yeah. No. If you have submitted attachments previously to the ATO. And when I say submitted, if you've given us the attachments in any other sort of compliance or engagement activity previously, there is no requirement to submit those attachments again. You can if you want to. There's nothing stopping you. The only thing that we ask is that if you indicate as part of that local file part B is that you have previously submitted that attachment, the year in which it was submitted, and also the title of the agreement that was previously provided.
Okay. Another question is, will the extension being talked about apply to both the local file and the ICR lodgement that would otherwise have been in July?
Yes. Yes. So in terms of tentative dates, given that the testing suite is probably usually out in May, but in this case probably will be out June 15th, although we're trying to get it out as quickly as possible. We're thinking of about a 1-month extension and that includes ICR, IDS, and by definition the administrative solution to around August 15th. But in terms of being definitive on that, that's still being,
that's great.
Have you had any sense from taxpayers as to what they want to do around the admin solution versus just going status quo?
I think there's generally interest in certainly lodging as part of the admin solution. Based on consultation that we had in the high-level design, that was really a key point, and that's why we've provided the administrative solution for taxpayers.
Yeah. Just a final question that's just come in, which is running out of time. Is CCH the only software solution provider that you are aware of?
My understanding is that there are a couple of others, but certainly we've been in discussions with CCH and assisting them in making sure that their systems are ready to go live on whether it be 1st of July or whatever the system availability becomes. So I believe there are others. We can't unfortunately recommend any particular software solution, but a quick Google search will probably point you in the right direction.
Great. All right. I think we've run out of time. So Tony, over to you to wrap up.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks, Ross, for your great presentation today and for taking the time to answer all those questions. If we didn't get a chance to answer any of your questions, we'll be updating our frequently asked questions page on our cchintegrator.com website, so be sure to visit. To all of you, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.